So after my perfect 10 out of 10, much like life or Miyagi-Do, it's all about balance. And now, let's talk about the worst movie. I'm going to be so intoxicated by the time this is over. So, I want to preface this review about something. I am an avid defender of M. Night Shyamalan. I am much looking forward to his new release, Trap, which no doubt will divide people, as his movies tend to do. And into the tradition of Shyamalan dividing people comes his daughter, here to divide us even further. So let's talk about the new 2024 horror, and quite possibly the stupidest fucking movie of the year. The movie that I have felt extreme rage for. And a movie that I put on the back burner because, quite honestly, I just didn't have the strength, the will. I didn't have what it took to sit here and explain the depths of stupidity. And I want to give a couple warnings first. I will be spoiling it later. I'll let you know the spoilers, because to tell you how deeply disappointed I am, I have to spoil the end. But I'm just going to start with a basic review for people who don't want to know and watch this piece of shit. But my suggestion is stay tuned and just find out what it's all about, because it's stupid. Okay? And I don't want to shit on Aisana Night Shyamalan, or A.M. Shyamalan, okay? Hey, Carmen, how are you? She is got some talent. And anybody who watches this film and doesn't tell me that isn't good looking or trying to just shit on the movie, she has talent. But she does not have the thing that her dad has, which is, even in the worst Shyamalan movies, he always has the hook to keep you engaged, even if the conclusion sucks. He was the only one who made me care about plants being angry, okay? I love The Happening. I don't care. I will die on that hill. It's the best comedy ever made. But this is bad. And I'm going to get into all of my reasons on why. There's a long list of why this movie is terrible. But I want to get to some good things and give the devil its due before I get into why this is the biggest waste of time I have ever had the displeasure of watching, and by far the longest movie. And when I say the longest movie, not in lengthwise, but in how you feel watching this movie, is the longest emotionally draining experience I've had in the theater in years. I like the producer because he makes very good. Thank you. I agree. But this movie is by Ishana Night Shyamalan, the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. It was produced by Warner Brothers Productions. It stars in the movie Dakota Fanning, who I happen to have a love for, Georgina Campbell, Owen Fourier, Oliver Fegan, and John Lynch. And so, what is this movie about? So, this movie is about Dakota Fanning's character called Mina, as she struggles to come to terms with the death of her mother. She works at this pet store in Belfast and is tasked with delivering this very rare and exotic bird to the middle of fucking nowhere. And when she delivers said bird or gets to the area, and here's the joke. If you guys don't know my co-host, Pop Culture PB, he lives in the middle of the fucking woods, and she has to go further than that in the Irish countryside. So I want to stop with one of my positives right here. The first positive is the landscape is beautiful, and M. Night's daughter has a real eye for cinematography. If you don't know about her past, she has started out as a cinematographer and doing short kind of things with her dad and kind of getting into the business that way. And this is the first movie she's written and directed. This is also an adaptation of what I heard is a far more superior book. And I plan on reading the book and maybe doing a spoiler compare and breakdown and tell you how this epically fails compared to its far better book counterpart. But let's get back to the story. So Mina has to take this bird into the God knows middle of nowhere area of Ireland. Her car stalls, and then she hears creepy voices, and this old, really weird lady tells her to run towards this building. Now, what is this building? This building is called the Coop, and it is a place in the center of the woods, where glass all around it and concrete brick framing, where these, whatever they are, watch people like a messed up reality television show. Now, I want to say for my positives right off the bat, the beginning of this movie and the setup is not the issue. The issue is how they get to the resolution and the reveals that are in this movie. And my biggest issue is an issue that I had from a little show called True Blood. It was one of my favorite shows, and there's a reveal in that a lot of people joke about to this day. Now, if you've never seen True Blood, then I'm not going to spoil it for you. But if you had, I'll give you a clue. These have to do with what Sookie Stackhouse is in that show. And to me, the reveal in that show was a fuck of a lot better than the reveal in this movie. And the movie has another issue. It's trying to go for this deep, layered theme about becoming somebody else and the struggles you go through. And for all the people that I've seen trying to fucking defend this movie go, well, Zod, there's a deeper meaning. There's layers to this. You got to get into the layers in your character. No, there is not. This is the most simplistically built story that masquerades as something with layers, okay? This is not Shrek. It is not an onion. It does not have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. This movie does not have layers. This movie tells you, I shit you not, I've never watched a movie that tells me what has been happening and what the movie is in the center of the movie. This is literally the worst case of exposition dump I have ever seen in my life. There is a scene in this movie that is so exposition heavy. It's like literally 20 minutes of something that they find, and I'll get into that when I go into spoilers, but this is just the non-spoiler section. But they find something that explains what's going on in this, and it's literally somebody telling us what is going on. And if you don't like M. Night Shyamalan, fine, I get it. But the difference between M. Night and what his daughter clearly needs to work on is that M. Night does fumble the ball in his endings a lot of the time, but he does tend to give people more visuals than explanations. He does have the obligatory character that explains what's going on or gives you a vague hint here or there. That is a crutch, but a lot of this does feel like his hand in this too. I don't know how much his daughter did. He's a co-producer, but I don't know how much he reworked her script or whatever. But I don't think it was for the best if he had a hand in this, because it is the most god-awful reveal I've seen in a movie in years. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Thank you very much for the love. This movie has the worst reveal of all time. But I'm sorry, I got off track. I got mad. So what's going on, Zod? What? There's people in the woods. They're trapped in this place called the Coop. They're being watched, hence the name. And Dakota Fanning's character, Mina, her mom died and sent her in a downward spiral where she goes out and dresses up as a different person. She does anything to escape who she really is. And pay close attention to that, because that metaphor gets thrown into your face later. And so this person that she finds, Madeline, explains the rules. And there's certain rules that you have to obey by so the watchers don't get pissed off. And one of the rules is nobody can enter the burrows, underground tunnels. You can only go out at day because the creatures have an aversion to the daytime. And, you know, there's a bunch of other little things too. But long story short, there's her and about, I don't know, 4 other people trapped with her. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people trapped. And all of them have different personality. Georgina Campbell Olin Fourier. Madeline has been there the longest. She's got a dark secret she's hiding. Kara's been trapped there. And Clara's husband is trapped there with her. There's this nice sentimental guy trapped there, and they've been there for a few years now. And so she gets trapped, and long story short, of course, she breaks the rules, doesn't fucking listen to anything immediately after she's told, because, of course, the plot has to move. And then you find out what the story is. So what do I think? The visuals are great. So let me slow down. What's my positives? The visuals are good. Dakota Fanning tries her best. The one woman who's in this, Georgina Campbell, she is from one of my favorite movies, Barbarian. She is grossly underutilized and probably one of the better characters in here. Elaine Fourier is also pretty good as Madeline. And John Lynch, not John Leach, who is it? Is it, I think his name is Ulster Brammer. He is also a charming character. But here's my issue. Okay, so the cinematography is good. The premise of the story is good. And I like Irish folklore. Now my negatives. Everything with this movie I have an issue with. The setup and pacing is god-awful. The second act, this movie slows to a crawl. It grinds to a halt for stupid shit that nobody cares about. The obvious and very ham-fisted parallels in the story, they're all trapped. Kind of like the main character, Mina, is trapped in her own life. And, everybody's got secrets. Kind of like the creatures have secrets. And, the vain person who knew Madeline is harboring a dark secret. This is so by the numbers obvious. Masquerading as something trying to be deeper. And it's frustrating because it has the potential to have a great premise and to be deeper, but it's just not. It's fundamentally flawed on multiple levels. Jesus Christ. I haven't been this angry at a movie in quite some time because honestly, folks, I wanted to try. I know what the reviews are, and I don't give a shit about Rotten Tomato or other people's opinions when going to see a movie. I don't like that to color my view. But this has got to be the most boring middle portion to a film I've ever had sat through. The pace of this thing just halts to a snail's pace. Nothing happens. Oh, and jump scares. There is jump scare galore. They do the whole technique it's getting to a boring part. Dumb. No reason at all. And character motives. Okay, the characters here are not easy to sympathize with because they make the stupidest decisions, right down to Dakota Fanning's character, who's supposed to be the protagonist. First off, Dakota Fanning is not given much at all to work with, and despite the depth she tries to give Mina, unfortunately she is handheld by the shittiest script writing imaginable, and there is nothing she can do with what is on the paper for her to do. There's supposed to be this emotional reveal, but the problem is that by the end of the movie it doesn't make sense to, and from what I hear, this wasn't in the book, and there's probably a reason why it wasn't, because it makes the rest of the film feel disjointed, okay? So there's an accident that happened when they were kids where she lost her sister and she was the only one who survived, and the thing is, I understand the reasons for adding these things to give your characters more character depth and motivations, and to contrast with the loss of her mother, this feeling of not only losing her mother but losing her other sibling, and her creating this persona and this other person she wants to be. I get all that. I understand, but it doesn't work in this movie. It doesn't help the pacing or give more depth to the character. It kind of just makes her look like a bitch through 90% of this movie. And that is bad because she is the main character we are supposed to be rooting for. And if I can't sympathize with your character, then I can't sympathize with the rest of what you're trying to tell me, because all I'm thinking is she's dumb, she's arrogant, and she's getting a bunch of people fucking killed. Oh, man. Okay, so, besides character motivation, the evidence and clues left is so ridiculous. There's a part added from this, and I know because someone contrasts the book to this movie, there's a part added to this that I get they added it for a sense of suspense and to give you a little bit more indication of what these things are, but it doesn't work in the context of the film because it just makes the character suffer and come off as a more greedy, kind of stupid idiot to lure these people. Thank you. I'm breathing. So, at the end of the day, the scene that they added to kind of explain everything with these burrows is just kind of felt like a way to throw in something cool and visual. Now, so what are these creatures? That is the big thing, and I am going to kind of spoil some stuff and tell you why I think this is the stupidest ending of all time. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, click off. This movie's a 3 out of 10. I did not like it. It only scores enough because of the visuals, the sound design, and Dakota Fanning. Don't waste your time. Stream this movie if you want to put yourself through that. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to get into the end and tell you what the Watchers are. The Watchers are fucking fairies. This is the worst fucking reveal of all time. There's a doctor who was named Professor Roy Kettleman, and he built this facility, or the place they're caught in, the coop, is actually a lab of sorts that this Professor Rory was using to study these creatures. And apparently fuck me. I need a drink. The fairies have been trying to mimic humans. And so... oh my god. Okay, so the fairies have been evolving and learning to mimic humans, and this Professor Roy was trying to bring awareness of these creatures that exist and was keeping them contained within this forest, because if they ever got out into our world, they would essentially, I don't know, because the movie doesn't really go into it much, but I guess mimic us and they would kill the copy or something, some such nonsense. And so the only one who knew about this was this Professor Rory, and he was from a university, and he disappeared, and apparently he had left notes. So Mina's quest at the end of this is to go back to the university, get these notes, and destroy them. And in the stupidest fucking character shift of all time, this quickly becomes an allegory of how we've got to preserve the creatures of the woods and stuff about environment shit that's just haphazardly thrown into this in the middle of the movie. And so she has to go and destroy these notes. And then the fairies and the humans, I guess, lived in harmony at one point. And so Mina decides, instead of destroying these notes and keeping the fairies trapped, she wants to, again, have man and fairy coexist as one. God, this is so fucking stupid. And so it becomes so it gets revealed that the person who was actually with them, Kara, was one of the fairies, and she had been with them for a while, and she was actually observing from the inside of the group, and that she was the product of being half fairy and half human, created by Rory and Madeline. She was like the first half-human hybrid. Madeline was actually a fairy the whole time, and she fell in love with Rory, and their kid was the offspring of human and fairy. So dude fucked a fairy and had a fairy daughter. And like... So, how do I... Like, this could work, but everything is so telegraphed that when you find out what the whole premise of the movie is, you know what's going to happen, except for the stupid part of Mina being convinced that she should let these fairies that can copy people right down to their likeness just go about the world. It's okay. It's like, let the fairies live off on their own, and there's supposed to be a meaning of nature and man bonding together. Like, look, these fairies murdered like 4 people in their group. I'm sorry. If these were people I was trapped with and I was a friend of, there would be no way in the world of hell I would let a fucking fairy just prance around and be like, oh yeah, that's cool, go like create a different, let's balance nature. What kind of bullshit? This was the worst twist, like, and I get it that the fairy's supposed to be a metaphor for Mina and her trauma and her growing over it and accepting that side of herself, that she's not just Mina, but she's these different parts, and that until she accepted who she was, like the fairy, then she could coexist. I get the deeper meaning. It's stupid. The whole thing is fucking stupid. The execution is stupid. It could have worked with a little bit more skill, and just, I don't know. There's so much in the story that has to be altered for it to actually be good that I really want to read the book and find out how they connected this, because the movie does not sell me on the premise after watching it. Like, it had potential. Even the fairy thing I was on board with, given the creature design, was pretty cool. They did show a little bit of what the creatures look like. And cool, terrifying. But the whole throwing in at the 9th hour that, oh, the fairy is an allegory for Mina and her trauma and how she had to grow into her role, and that the fairy learned that she had to accept not only mankind, but fairy kind, so that we can all live and get together. That message could work if it didn't suck the way it was delivered, and if you didn't bore me to death in about the midway point of this film. And if the reveals were stupid, like literally, they find a trap door that leads them to the reveal by complete accident. There's a rug over the door, and in 4 years of these people being trapped, no one ever thought to look under the rug to see the blatantly hidden trap door that leads to the compartment that has all of the secrets and can get you out of this forest? What? You're telling me you can live in like a 4x10 space? Like, look, my apartment is not that big. If there was a secret trap door or a secret room or something, it'd be pretty freaking easy to find. Because the square footing, like, if they were locked in a mansion in the middle of the woods, or the trap door was outside in a place they couldn't get to, and they had to find it before nighttime came, I could roll with that. But you're telling me this whole time, all 5 of you people never just slipped over the rug, moved it to sweep, I don't know, coughed too much, and go, oh, shit, there's a trap door. Nobody in this group for 5 years. Nobody accidentally spilled something on the rug and went to clean it up and go, whoop, trapdoor. Like, come on, man. Come on. This is the laziest form of storytelling. And it's like they gave up trying to have this grand reveal. Just picture, if you will, the movie Sixth Sense, right? There's clues all along the way. If you watch that movie, you could very easily tell what the ending of the movie is, right? But just imagine if Haley Joel Osment came out and said, hey, I think I'm seeing ghosts, right? Just right off the bat. Or he said, oh yeah, you're a ghost because I see dead people, right? Does the reveal at the end have the impact that it does? Hell, look at Unbreakable. Imagine if it was confirmed like Samuel Jackson went, oh yeah, I blew some shit up. I murdered and robbed these people and blew up buildings just to find you. Boom, there you go. Unbreakable. Like, the delivery of the twist is the most important part of movies like this. And I think that's where the low score comes from. Because your twist should never be a 20-minute monologue about all of this research you were doing and how these creatures can mimic people and yada, 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 yada. And like, some of the scenes added nothing to the movie. Like, they go down in the burrow, they find all of this shit from like years ago, implying that these creatures had been getting these people into the forest and, I don't know, killing them, whatever it is they do, because the movie doesn't explain it. And it's like, okay, what does that have to do? How does that give me the next piece of clue to what the mystery is? This movie is the complete opposite of Longlegs that I watched in every single way. Because this movie tells you everything. This movie has nonsensical plots. This movie has shit that makes no earthly sense. I wanted so badly to like this film. I wanted to come on here, tell you guys, hey, they're being harsh on my girl Shyamalan, all right? But this is terrible writing. And I have no one to blame but the people credited for writing. This is written by Ishana Night Shyamalan. It's directed by Ishana Night Shyamalan. It's based on a book by A.M. Shine. It's produced by M. Night. Like, this is her film. And I've heard people defending her, well, maybe M. Night had a hand in it. He's a producer or whatever else. But no, it's your movie. She directed it, she wrote it, she scored it, she picked the cinematographer and everything else. Like, look, we gotta be fair. You messed up. Like, it's not the worst debut, but it's not a very good one. It's not even close to being a good debut film. It makes you question when this person appears on the credits for a next movie. And it's a shame because I honestly think the concept could work. I love Irish folklore. I love the idea of fairies being able to mimic people and them going bad because of how the world is. I think all of that could work. But I think in the way the story was constructed and how it felt like they didn't know how to get from point A to point B in a logical and coherent manner, the movie falls flat and the acting and the characters suffer as a lack of care and attention. The book has more details on these characters, but we learn nothing. Like, seriously? The only character you know anything about in this movie is Mina, played by Dakota Fanning, and these vague conversations about the characters that are in there. But I don't know any of the characters. Therefore, when they die or something big happens, I don't care because I've gotten no background into these characters' lives. Like the movie by M. Night Shyamalan, The Cabin in the Woods, right? I like that movie because even though you don't know much about those 6 people that come, they do the flashbacks, or M. Night does flashbacks to each of the characters to explain how they got there. And I think that makes it better for the movie for when things happen the way they do. But in here, I have no emotional connection to any of these characters whatsoever. Therefore, I don't care about any of these characters when things start happening. And as far as Mina goes, her character is so all over the place in order to make the story work that I really don't even got a very good grasp on who Mina is as a character, how she is affected, how she resolves the trauma by the end of the movie. I feel like it's not resolved. It's just kind of like, oh, fairies can coexist with people. I can learn to love myself. I mean, yeah, that can work, but only if I have a deep-rooted emotional connection, which you don't get because of how I feel Dakota Fanning it was having to act this character, which is a shame because she really does a great job. And I'd say my one really big positive and why this is a 3 and not a 2 or a 1 is mainly Dakota Fanning, and the cinematography is gorgeous. Like, this is a beautiful looking movie. The woods, the atmosphere. This is one of those movies that has all the ingredients to be a decent movie and fails at every one of those aspects, which lets the rest of the movie down, which makes you hate the whole entire thing. And I'm sorry to say that. Like, really, I don't like being angry. I don't like ranting occasionally. I want to enjoy these kinds of movies. But when you're going to throw a concept like fairies into a movie, it better be good. And it just was not a good explanation all the way around. Like, it had bits that could have been good if they would have pieced it together a little bit differently. I think this script needed 3 or 4 passes. I think there needed to be some reshoots. I think some things needed to be added and some things needed to be cut to make this movie coherent. Because by the end of the movie, I cannot logically buy anything that they set up by the end of this film. Which is bad for a creature feature that you're supposed to be invested in. So this movie's 3 out of 10. I hated it. I'd say skip it. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 was better. Go watch that. That's more fun. This was a boring slog to get through. The first hour is the best part of the movie. Or, that's being generous. Probably the first 25, 30 minutes. But yeah, if you want to see the overall thing, because I'm not doing a full breakdown because this movie, quite honestly, isn't worth it. I'm not going to do a full breakdown and get into the minutia of everything. But I will say it was very disappointing. And at the very least, the one thing I'll give The Strangers is at least things happened. They were stupid. They didn't make sense. But at least things happened. This movie was a whole lot of nothing. That led to a whole lot of nothing with a plot and a premise that's a whole lot of nothing. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is my last review. I wanted to start off with Long Legs. Go check out that review. That movie's a masterpiece. But, hey, Aaron Cooper, what's up? You missed my rant. But, yeah, don't watch this movie. It's a bad film. I thoroughly hated it. 3 out of 10. And it only gets a 3 for Dakota Fanning and beautiful shots of Belfast. Other than that, this movie's a pile of crap. It makes no sense. And there's fairies. Fucking fairies. So ridiculous. This reminded me of the feeling I got from when I watched True Blood. And I guess spoilers for True Blood if you've never seen that. But it's on like HBO Max. Go watch it. But Sookie being a fairy was a better reveal than how they present it in this film. It's just so bad. Anyways, I gotta go before I get swept away by the rain. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, remember, there's only one rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.